Every man who has ever picked up a barbell thinks he knows how Arnold built his body. They say bench press, barbell curls, and squats. They are wrong. Not about the exercises. Arnold did all of those. Wrong about which ones he said actually built what you see in every photograph from 1970 to 1980. There are 5 movements buried inside Arnold's training that history quietly removed from the conversation. Not because they stopped working, because modern fitness found them inconvenient. This video recovers all 5 movements so rare that most coaches have never seen them performed. Let's dive in the video. Exercise 1. The Dumbbell Pullover. Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote, "One of the prime movements that made my chest grow was the dumbbell pullover. Not the bench press. The pullover." He performed 5 sets of 15 to 20 reps at a nearly incapacitating level of fatigue with a 90-pound dumbbell, flat across a bench, arms arcing from directly overhead all the way down past his head in a deep, controlled stretch. His description of the feeling: "You will not believe the ache in the sternum that this movement will produce. It literally pulls your chest apart and forces it into new growth." He also believed, against the opinion of every authority of his time, that years of heavy pullover work expanded the physical size of his ribcage. He wrote, "I am convinced that I could effectively expand the ribcage by performing dumbbell pullovers." His chest measured 58 inches at his peak, the widest, deepest barrel chest in the history of professional bodybuilding, and he credited the pullover above all other movements for building it.
The basic exercises are extremely important. That if you build that and if you really use that you really can build a body, everything from ground up. Those are the basic exercises, this basic stuff that has nothing with machines, that is just with basic weight.
Those are the basic exercises. Nothing with machines, but basic weight. There is no machine that replicates this. There is no modern substitute. And the dumbbell pullover has almost completely vanished from modern gyms. Exercise 2. Weighted parallel bar dips. Ask any man in any gym today what dips are for. He will say triceps. Arnold said something different. Arnold Schwarzenegger performed weighted parallel bar dips with an 80-pound dumbbell hanging from a chain around his waist. He lowered himself until his hands were almost level with his armpits, a range of motion so extreme that modern trainers have effectively banned it. He controlled every inch of the descent. He drove back up with everything he had. And he directly credited weighted dips, not the bench press, not cable crossovers, not any machine, as the exercise responsible for the razor-sharp definition line across the bottom of his pectoral muscles. That lower pec shelf, the clean, hard line that separated his chest from his abdomen. The line that men over 40 spend years trying to build and never find. It came from dips, heavy dips, loaded to 80 pounds, full range of motion. The extreme depth of the movement creates a stretch in the lower pectoral fiber that no pressing variation can replicate. Decline presses do not do it. Cable crossovers do not do it. Only the full, loaded, deep parallel bar dip reaches the lower chest the way Arnold was targeting it. Modern trainers replaced it with machines because machines are safer to teach and easier to sell.
How every rep in bodybuilding and in weight training has a flexing motion and a stretching motion. So if you do a chin-up, so coming all the way down is the stretch of the lats, but then going all the way up is the flex of the back.
Exercise 3. The Incline Dumbbell Curl. Everyone believes Arnold's arms were built on barbell curls, but inside his documented arm routine, in the training he actually described, there is a movement that almost nobody talks about, the Incline Dumbbell Curl. Performed at a specific 45-degree bench angle, arms hanging completely vertical at the start of every single rep, creating maximum stretch on the long head of the biceps before a single inch of curl begins. Arnold performed 5 to 8 sets of 12 to 15 reps this way. Not for mass, for peak. The incline angle places the upper arm behind the body's midline. This maximally lengthens the long head of the bicep at the bottom of every rep before contraction begins. The result is a stimulus that no standing curl, barbell or dumbbell can replicate. Arnold used this in combination with concentration curls to attack the bicep at both ends of its range. Stretch at the bottom from the incline curl. And the men doing incline curls today, the few who bother, are almost universally doing them wrong. Bench angle too high, range of motion cut short, missing the stretch entirely. If you are a man over 40 still in the gym or trying to get back in, I put together a free 15-point protocol. Link is in the description, or scan the QR code. Exercise 4. Behind the neck barbell press. The behind the neck barbell press. Arnold performed this as the foundation of his shoulder training throughout his competitive career. It is documented in his own Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. It is visible in training footage from Gold's Gym Venice throughout the 1970s. It built the cannonball deltoids that made his physique look three-dimensional from every angle. The movement places the bar behind the head and presses it directly overhead. Wide grip, elbows driven outward. Full range of motion from the traps to lockout overhead. This loading angle recruits all three deltoid heads simultaneously, anterior, lateral, and posterior, in a way that front pressing cannot replicate. It also develops the stabilizing musculature of the rotator cuff through a range that builds the structural integrity required to carry heavy loads for decades. When Arnold trained it, 3 sessions per week, heavy weight, full range, it built the most photographed shoulder structure in the history of the sport. When modern trainers removed it from programs, replacing it with machine shoulder presses and cable lateral raises, the shoulders that appeared on bodybuilding stages became flatter, less three-dimensional, and visually smaller despite greater body mass. This is not coincidence. The behind-the-neck press requires shoulder mobility. It requires deliberate technique. Modern fitness removed it because it was harder to teach and easier to replace.
The more you struggle with resistance, the more the weights you use, the more you go through the pain period. After you do like 8 reps and you can't do anymore, then you just do the forced reps, which are the most painful ones. And it really differentiates you from the guy that is going to make it to the guy that's going to lose.
If this is how you want to train, if this is the standard you want to hold your training to, subscribe now. Thank you for your support. Exercise 5. The barbell hack squat. The hack squat. Ask any man in any gym. He points to the machine with the padded shoulder rests and the sled that travels on a rail. That machine was not invented until decades after Arnold retired. Arnold never performed a single rep on it. The hack squat Arnold used was a barbell exercise. The bar held behind the body, not resting on the shoulders, not on a machine rail, held in the hands behind the hips at leg level, with the weight loaded directly behind the body's center of gravity, heels elevated on a plate, feet narrow, back upright, knees driving forward over the toes as the body descends into a deep, controlled squat. This loading position is biomechanically different from any other squat variation in existence. The weight behind the body shifts the mechanical demand entirely onto the quadriceps, not the glutes, not the hips, not the lower back. The quadriceps, specifically the outer head, the vastus lateralis, which is responsible for the sweeping, dramatic outer thigh development visible on every golden era leg. The machine version, the sled on rails, loads the body from the shoulders down. It mimics the shape of the movement, but eliminates the specific loading angle that made the original effective. The balance requirements are gone. The posterior chain tension is gone. The specific mechanical demand on the outer quad is altered. What the machine builds and what the barbell builds are not the same.
It's really not the technology so much. It helps you, but I mean, in the end, it is really what you have to work on is the will.
5 exercises, all buried by a fitness industry that preferred simpler substitutes. None of them are secrets. They are in Arnold's books. They are in the footage that still exists. They were just waiting for someone to go find them. You now have all 6 back. One question before you go. Which of these 7 are you adding to your training first? Drop it in the comments below. I read every one. See you in the next Golden Era videos.